Um, this is another DreamWorks session here. As usual, I'm just doing it by myself and not knowing whether I'm going to end up with something that I want to put on the net or not, so I just allow myself to be as free as a bird. And as a matter of fact, there's a bird in the story here. This is another weird dream. I look for the weird ones because I hope they'll be more interesting theatrically. So this one's pretty weird, but at the same time it has some personal stuff in it, so maybe a combination of weirdness and personal stuff might make for a good brew here, something to cook up. Alright, so here it's a story. Let's, if we give it a title, we can call it The Gun at the Banquet Hall. Here I am at a banquet hall, and I have the impression that the scene seems to be something out of the 1940s or something because of the costumes. People seem to be wearing suits that they wouldn't be wearing today. And then there's two rooms. There's one room with a bar in it, and a lot of people around the bar. It's kind of a long, kind of a elliptical kind of a rectangular but rounded at the edges kind of bar. And I somehow imagine it has shiny wooden mahogany type surface on it. And there are people in the other room. The dream starts off in the other room. And in the other room, of all people, there's my father, Henry Wepner. And what's he doing? He's standing there in front of this big turkey, carving a turkey. I guess it's for the guests at this event. I don't know what the event is, but there's some kind of an event. And my father Henry is busy, quietly, not saying a word. He's busy carving this turkey. He was good at carving turkeys. He grew his father owned a delicatessen, so I think he worked in his father's delicatessen when he was a teenager. So he was probably pretty good at carving turkeys. Or maybe it wasn't a turkey, maybe it was some kind of roast beef or something. But he's carving this thing. Meanwhile, I am wandering around, I guess, and I find myself in the next room with the bar in it. And then suddenly I discover, lo and behold, that I have a pistol in my pocket. It seems like a very big pistol. I'm barely squeezing, it barely fits in my pocket. I don't know what it's doing there. I don't have any particular intention to hurt anybody, kill anybody, shoot anybody, but I have this pistol. And next thing you know, for some silly reason or other, I take out the pistol and I look in the direction of the bar, sort of to the left, and then most of the people are on the right of the bar, facing away from me. And I think I see some kind of bird or I have some kind of an excuse. There's that bird we were talking about. I have some kind of an excuse to shoot at that bird in the direction of the bar. So I shoot. Bang. One shot maybe, I don't know. I don't remember anymore. And the amazing thing about this dream is that here I am shooting a gun in a big bar, in a big banquet hall, and nobody reacts at all. It's like nobody even knows I'm there. Nobody looks at me. Nobody talks to me. I don't know anybody there that I could recognize. Although I have a vague impression that somehow my family members, like my uncles and aunts, might be around. Another thing, I don't see any women. I somehow mostly only see men. I'm not sure. There might be women there, but I just don't know. Okay, so I shoot this gun, and no big deal. But what happens is after I shoot it, after a while, and I put it away, I start worrying. Maybe somebody called the cops because I shot this gun. On the other hand, nobody reacts. It's a very strange feeling, but I'm getting more and more upset that somebody should call the cops, and I better get the hell out of there quickly. Even though I know I didn't do anything wrong. but you never know. You know, if you shoot a gun in a public place, you know, it could happen. So I go in the other room, and there my father, and again, he's finished carving his turkey. There's this big platter of turkey meat. It looks really delicious in my imagination. And I'm about to start talking to him and telling him to get out of there, when my brother somehow or other also. So I have the impression I must be around 20 years old, and I have the impression my brother is maybe 18 years old or something. And he's somehow there. And he says to me he wants to go into some other place and come back in a while. And I'm trying to convince some other room maybe, I don't know. And I'm trying to convince him, hey, you know, we gotta get out of here, we gotta get out of here, we gotta get out of here. The cops, Mike, I think I did something, I shot this gun or something, and we gotta get out of here quickly. And I'm struggling to convince him, and meanwhile my father's not reacting at all. And here we have this dream with this tension building up to a peak here. I'm barely convincing my brother not to leave, and my father is oblivious to what's going on. He somehow doesn't hear it. He's busy himself. And suddenly I wake up, and that's the end of the dream. Okay, there's a dream. Now let's see, what do we know about dream work? We know that the dream, well, we've heard that a dream is 1/60th of prophecy, 1/60th of the word, or the message or something. And the dream work, I believe, from my experience, I believe it's true, that the dream work is a way of discovering the other 59/60ths of the message. So what is the message of this dream? Of course, this is not Freud. We're not saying that there is a message with the dream, because the dream work is a here and now process, working with awareness and discovering what comes out of the overall storytelling process. You know, if you've Walter Benjamin wrote a very nice essay about Leskov, Nikolai Leskov, the storyteller. And he points out that a real storyteller is doing basically what we're doing in this process of Gestalt dream work. We're working with awareness in a personal way, dealing with what in Gestalt therapy we call poetry rather than verbalizing. We're not talking about life, we're living life, because I'm involving myself as a storyteller, I'm involving myself personally in what's going on here. I'm not just getting a lot of information. This is not a novel. What Walter Benjamin makes a distinction between a novel and a story. A novel is a literary form that has a lot of information in it, what Gestalt therapy calls aboutism, a lot of stuff about life, whereas the storyteller is involving himself personally in the life of the situation, of the characters. So this is not a novel, it's a story. And I'm a storyteller, not a novelist. All right? A little bit of theoretical information here. While we're on the subject of Walter Benjamin, one other thing we could mention is that the process we're doing, another essay of Walter Benjamin's is called the Unpacking My Library. He writes about, he has a bunch of boxes of his books, his 1,000 library books, and he's unpacking it. And he's using that as a metaphor for exactly the same process we're doing here. In what sense? In the sense that each time I discover something here, any new point of view, by identifying with some other thing, it's like I'm unpacking another box of from my memory, from my archaic memory, and this is called Plato calls anamnesis. I'm going back to the deep dark past of my life with associations, a train of associations that come out of the here and now process here. And I'm unpacking another memory box. In other words, it's all there in my deep dark memory, in my archaic memory, and this Gestalt process is a way of going back to those primordial memories, one at a time, opening one box, one big gestalt, one monad, one world of associations with a central ruling idea. Each time I take an image, let's say if I identify with the bar, I'm this bar. So right away that bar becomes another box, a memory box that I'm opening up, another thing that I'm collecting. And so as Walter Benjamin unloads one box after another and gets to the final thing where his whole library is unpacked, same thing here in a dream work. The overall message of the dream we get to at the end of the dream work is again exactly this situation of having unloaded a whole bunch of boxes and getting all these memories and associations coming together, one big memory, which is the overall existential message of the dream. So that's, again, the parallel between Platonic collection of awarenesses, and to get to a moment of enlightenment. At the same time, the existential message of the dream is exactly that. And so we're doing what Gestalt therapy calls, Fritz Perls calls, actually it was Paul Goodman that probably made up that wrote this stuff here about poetry and verbalizing. So we're doing poetry in the sense that poetry is action, human action, coded with certain kinds of metaphors, whereas verbalizing about life, aboutism, is what in Gestalt therapy they call elephant shit. And when I work with a client doing Gestalt therapy, I want to keep the client focused on using language in an active way as poetry, rather than just getting stuck in talking about his life, really living his life as the process. Okay, that's a little theoretical background here. All right, now getting back to the dream. Let's see, where was I? I got lost in my lecture. I got lost there for a second. Okay, so this, where am I going to start working this dream? If I just allow myself to go back to the moment of the dreaming and ask myself, what's important here? What's important about this dream? Well, one thing as an overall factor is the complete rising sense of tension throughout the dream. There's builds from no tension and kind of just being there to very strong sense of urgency, the danger, that worry I'll get in trouble, I'll get blamed for something I didn't mean to do. So that's one element. And I ask myself, what kind of music would go with that? Well, it would be some kind of music that builds. Somehow I have this musical association of, since it's the 40s type costumes, maybe it's some kind of like, hey, it could be something like a Germany before the war, some kind of cabaret type music, or honky tonk or something like that in the background in a bar. My Blue Angel, something like Three Penny Opera, some kind of stuff in the background that is working against the tension of the plot of the story here. So let's see, then there's this bar, a banquet hall. Well, I could start off by identifying with a banquet hall, but then I say to myself, well, rather than do what I did that in another dream work, so maybe I'll look for a different angle and get started here.